Rebellions are built on hope.
And welcome to another episode of Radio Rebellion, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Alberto Calderon, and thank you for joining us on another Star Wars Saturday as we are here talking Star Wars in Radio Rebellion. Only myself today. Otis out this week. Next week we might take a little break, but we are here today. Thank you for everyone for joining us as we talk this galaxy far, far away. How are you guys doing today? Thank you again for joining us. And it's gonna have a little fun. It'll be a short episode, I believe. We'll talk. There's some news out there. We'll cover them. Our thoughts on some of the rumors. I guess we should say some rumors out there, and then we try also the Jedi, the end of the High Republic, upon us. We'll talk about what I think are some cool reading guides and I should say books and stories out there you guys should read before you jump in Trials of the Jedi, because there's a lot that can overwhelm everyone, but we'll get to it. So let's start with thanking everyone that's here. If it's your first time joining us, thank you. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any new episodes when they drop. Hit that like button so it helps us grow, and comment down below if you're listening to us or watching later on the replay. Anything about the topics we'll be covering today or anything else related to Star Wars, we'll come back, we'll read them, we'll reply. I will figure out stuff to do. But how's everyone out there doing? It's not the middle of summer. We're starting summer. Classes are out. Kids are running wild. Heat is unbearable, but we're making do. But we're here. We're having fun, as always. And I'll say early Happy Father's Day to everyone out there, since we most likely won't have a show next week. Just wanted to say Happy Father's Day to everyone. And my Darth Vader shirt that my in-laws got me. The best father ever. Darth Vader. Maybe not. Don't quote me on that. But all right, to our friend Brennan, page channels that were not. Hello there. I love the High Republic. Thank you, Brennan. We all love the High Republic. It's sad that it's coming to an end. I'm okay with it coming to an end. At least this story's gone on for about 3-4 years now, almost since it was announced. So it ends. It ends. Let's just leave it there. I'll talk about it in a minute, but thank you, Brandon, for joining us, and anyone else that might be out there. Thank you. All right, so let's go ahead. If you guys are ready, I'm not ready. Let's talk Star Wars and Star Wars news.
Star Wars news.
All right, Star Wars news, and these again, the two news items we'll have today. They're rumors, nothing certain, but most of it has been picked up by a bunch of outlets out there. But Star Wars news, and we start with Lucasfilm's co-presidents. What's happening? Nothing is happening. Everything's okay. It's Lucasfilm. It's always news. But in an expansive article regarding succession in multiple high-profile Hollywood studios, the Hollywood Reporter discussed the thinking over at Lucasfilm once Kathleen Kennedy decides to step down. It goes on to say the current thinking is a scenario where Executive Vice President, Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni, and production head, Executive Vice President of Live Action Development and Production, Carrie Beck, both Lucasfilm vets, take co-head roles. Even as an arm of Disney, Lucasfilm remains in many ways a family business, and as George Lucas' protege, Filoni long has been considered a golden boy. Beck, who joined the company in 2012, knows the ins and outs, but neither she nor Filoni has much film experience, which could be mitigated by Kennedy's continued presence as a producer on certain Star Wars projects, ensuring quality control in the short term. So yes, Lucasfilm officially looking for the successor to Kathleen Kennedy. This is something that has been a topic of discussion for plenty of years now. It's come up this year at least twice, before Star Wars Celebration, after. A bunch of rumors out there when Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down. Is it going to be before the summer, after summer, by the end of the year? Nobody knows. I know Kathleen Kennedy came out around the same time and said she will never retire from filmmaking or from the movie business. She will stay as a producer, and everything has been announced so far in Star Wars. She'll stay as a producer, but eventually she'll step down. The decision or the news of that might come at the end of the year, early next year, who knows? But according to a Hollywood Reporter, at least they're starting to look at who's going to take over after she leaves. And what seems to be the most likely scenario is for both Carrie Beck and Dave Filoni to take over as co-presidents. You can always say if there's two presidents, there's no president. Two is better than one. They're gonna go back and forth and won't be able to decide. Maybe you need three to have that tiebreaker. We won't know till it happens. I'm okay with this. It's at the end of the day, I don't care who's behind, who's the one signing the checks. Just I care about what's on the screen, what's on the page. Give me good stories, and I don't care who's behind the scenes as the president. That to me and for fans really shouldn't matter too much. It's just if the stories that we're getting are good stories, good movies, or good TV series, animated, live action, whatever we get. Carrie Beck had seemed like a likely choice for a while. She seems to be same as Filoni was a protege to George Lucas. Carrie Beck has kind of been in that role with Kathleen Kennedy for the past few years. That the article said she joined Lucasfilm in 2012. She's been a producer in almost all the Star Wars live action shows on Disney Plus and all the animated shows. I'm not sure if on the movies. She might not be. I'm a little bit behind on that. But at least on all the recent live action TV shows and all the animated shows, she served as a producer. I believe she's created as part of the creative team behind Rebels, Resistance, and some of the Lego Star Wars stuff that's been out there. So she's the one of the two that I believe has more experience in the production side, how movie studios work, how to build and produce movies, television shows. So in that sense, it makes good sense that she will be part of the succession program. On the other hand, Dave Filoni, since George Lucas was involved in Star Wars, has always been the guy, right? Like the next guy to be there. I know recently it's been the fun kind of go-to is to bash everything Filoni has done and is doing currently, to say he only cares about Ahsoka and the story that he's doing. I've been in that boat in the sense that I'm not the biggest Filoni fan when it comes to the stories that he kind of decides to tell, maybe the way that he tells them. I really loved Ahsoka. Some of the last two episodes were my favorite of the series, but I really enjoyed that series. I want to see what season two brings. He has he directed episodes, of course, of The Mandalorian, episodes of Ahsoka, and now he's ready to direct his first live action movie. So he's been slowly stepping into that world, moving a little bit away from just being the animation guy, producing animated shows, even though he's created as being the creator or being very involved in the Bad Batch. After those episodes in Clone Wars Season 7, the Bad Batch went to a different team. He wasn't too much in the front end. I guess he was behind helping produce it. So he's getting a little bit more into that world also. We'll see how it goes with his movie as a director. But if you're going to have one person focus mostly on the production side and then another one person on the creative side, then I always say that even though I don't love Filoni's choice of stories that he always tells, I think it's a perfect fit to be the creative person in Lucasfilm. He knows the whole history about it, the whole canon, the mythology about it. He knows if someone has a question about anything that has been on screen so far, not the books, I don't know how it verses into the publishing side, but at least movie and TV wise, I think he's the one. He's the guy that people will go and say, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Does it fit in X, Y, and Z, or do I need to move it somewhere else? I think he fits that role perfectly. And if that's what they're going to do, that Carrie Beck focuses more on the production side of the business and he's more the creative, then it makes 100% sense. While at the same time, I believe that's what he's already doing as the chief creative officer. I think that's his job now. So I don't know if that's the where it goes. He focuses more on the creative side. I think he's already doing that. So I don't know if this might just be a title change or something else. But in the end, I'm okay if this is the way they want to go. I don't mind also if this is just smokes and mirrors or if this doesn't happen and then they decide to go with someone from the outside that's has more knowledge and more experience not directing but producing and running an actual studio, then I'm okay with it. They don't need to be a massive Star Wars fan. We've seen that with Tony Gilroy. He wasn't a massive Star Wars fan, whether he came into Rogue One, of course, with Andor. He just had a vision for those stories, and that's what he put on screen. At the same time, I don't want Tony Gilroy to be the guy to be leading Lucasfilm. He said he has no desire to have that job. He said he's done with Star Wars. That Rogue One is, Andor's the most important thing he'll ever do. So I don't think he even wants the job, and I don't think he'll be the perfect fit for president of Lucasfilm. I know why people say it. I know people love the love and dedication and the production value that went behind Andor. A lot of that you have to credit the actual production team that's there and then approve everything that he got and was able to do. That doesn't mean that he can run a studio. As massive as Lucasfilm, as massive as the Star Wars galaxy is, when it has to go into the Jedi, the Sith, the Force, it has to go into those places that maybe he doesn't enjoy that much. He's not the guy. So I'm glad that, yeah, Tony Gilroy, thank you for everything you did with Andor. If you want to come back and do something similar, that's fine. I don't think he's the right choice for leading the studio. Filoni and Carrie Beck makes sense. Two people focus on running the company, production, creative side. Makes sense. I'm on board. But like I said at the beginning, at the end of the day, the only thing I care about is what we get on screen, not who's behind the scenes sitting in their quote unquote director's chair, kind of calling the shots. Just give me good stories, and that's what I want. Explore the Force. What's up, Alberto? I am doing well. How are you doing? Explore the Force. Thank you for joining us today. Let us know, you, Brennan, anyone else that might be watching, what are your thoughts on this? So far, rumors, nothing's been made official about Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck stepping up to be the next presidents of Lucasfilm. Are you okay with the choice? Do you see where this might not work? Did you have a different choice in mind? Does it even matter? I talked with Oti months ago. I think when the first time this came out, people talk about Kathleen Kennedy leaving. Like, do we really know or care who's the head behind a bunch of these studios? We know the ones that suck, right? David Safla, he saw get him out of here. All other people, we really don't follow unless you're involved in the movie business and doing all this stuff that we do here. It really doesn't matter. But excuse me, that's just my thoughts. I'm sorry, I forgot to put this there. There we go. Co-presidents of Lucasfilm. All right, let me take a quick sip of my water. All right, let's go to the next bit of news out there. More rumors, and this one I might not be as much as a rumor as some people might think, although I think everyone's kind of on board also. So Starfighter, do we have a villain for Star Wars Starfighter? So first reported by Jeff Snyder and quickly confirmed by multiple outlets, actress Mia Goth will be joining the cast of Star Wars Starfighter starring Ryan Gosling. Hollywood Reporter said details on the project are scant, but it does involve Gosling playing a character that must protect a young charge against evil pursuers. Goth will play one of the pursuers. It's the same role that Mickey Madison had been circling before her deal blew up like a Death Star over Money Matters. So let's start with this. I'm not super versed on Mia Goth and her talents as an actress. I know she's done a bunch of horror movies. I haven't watched them. The Maxine, X, and all those. I haven't watched them. Haven't heard anything bad about her regarding her talent or persona, so I'm on board. More information about Star Wars Starfighter, I'm always going to be glad about it because I love me some Star Wars news. I want more Star Wars news out there. I mean, movie news, I should say. But yeah, so I'm super hyped that we're getting more casting announcement. Again, still rumors, hasn't been confirmed, but a bunch of the trades out there did pick this up, so I'm going to believe that this is happening. One thing that was interesting in that article, first, Hollywood Reporter had said that Gosling was playing a character that must protect his young nephew. And then about an hour or two afterward, they changed young nephew to young charge. So I don't know if the nephew bit was just a misunderstanding, or if his nephew, that part of that person being a nephew is important to the story, and Lucasfilm called to say, hey, replace that. That's going to be either a spoiler or something out there. I don't know. We'll find out when that happens. So what can... So I know a lot of people have picked up on that little young nephew on Ward or Charge comment. Some people wanted to be Broom Boy. Some people wanted to be someone else. Ryan Gosling to be Broom Boy. That doesn't work. I hope it's not Broom Boy. Just give me a bunch of new characters. This movie takes place, 5 years, I believe, after Rise of Skywalker. A bunch of brand new characters not connected to the Skywalker saga. I think even if you bring Broom Boy in, it kind of ties a little bit to the Skywalker saga. So in that sense, I'm hoping it's not. If it is, then it's fine. It connects to The Last Jedi, and then bring anyone else in. Give me some Rey. There's were rumors that Rey might show up in this movie as a cameo and maybe set up something for her movie. Maybe had Mia Goth character be a villain here and then be a villain in the Daisy Ridley movie. We'll see. Those movies are, although I believe the Rey Skywalker movie is 10 years after Rise of Skywalker, with this being 5. So there's still a 5-year gap, but it can work. All right, let me check real quick what you guys are saying out there. So Explore the Forces. I think Carrie Beck would be great, but if Dave takes it, then he will be too busy to create. I mean, it would be difficult. I agree. If Filoni becomes part of this president's team running Lucasfilm, he won't have time to do all the creative stuff that he's currently involved in. So I don't know if that's something he wants to do. Maybe after Ahsoka season 2 and his movie, then he steps back from being the creative type and directing all those projects and just does that behind the scene production and kind of help people and new directors that come in and writers kind of figure out what they want to do from the creative side to make sure it matches with everything that Star Wars is doing. Then that's fine. But I don't think, like you said, if he becomes a president, he won't have time to then do the creative type and the creative stuff he's been doing out there. So we'll see. You're also adding that Mia Goth looks similar to the Shin Hati actress, which I forgot her name. So if anyone out there can tell me, I'll be glad to share it. She does have some similarity, time-wise. It kind of matches. No, that's before The Force Awakens, so maybe a relative. I don't know. So yeah, this movie Starfighter, from what I can remember, I can't remember anything really, but I think the way I hope it kind of goes is remnants of the First Order are still out there. Some TIE Fighter groups, a squadron similar to the Alphabet Squadron trilogy, being the Republic was chasing Imperial remnants. Give me something like that. That would be lovely. With this young character involved, and then the Mia Goth villain character is chasing behind this young kid. Then what's the importance of the kid is what the story might be, which again is very Star Wars like, older person taking over a younger kid and protecting them. So we'll see. This movie was fast tracked pretty quickly. It came out of nowhere. It's already going to production, I believe, in November. I can't wait to start seeing some of the concept art and things out there for this movie. I don't know when we'll be able to see something or more casting announcements. But like we said, once Deadpool and Wolverine made the billions of dollars that it made, it was gonna get fast track. No way they're gonna tell him, no, you gotta wait in line for all the other movies to come out. He was getting that movie fast track as soon as possible. So I'm not surprised that we're getting that before the Rey movie or that Dawn of the Jedi James Mangold movie. So, but yeah, I'm happy with it. Again, more casting announcements. I'll take it. Give me Star Wars movies. We're less than a year away from The Mandalorian and Grogu. And then a year after that, we get Starfighter. So 2026, 2027, already 2 new Star Wars movies. And that's what we want. And hopefully 2028, we'll get, maybe that's the Dave Filoni movie, because Ahsoka, I'm guessing, is coming out next year. Mandalorian and Grogu, and then Ahsoka, and then probably the Dave Filoni movie in 2028 is my thinking. And then maybe 2029, which I can't believe is so freaking far away, we'll get the Day to Ray Skywalker movie, which again then will be 10 years from the Rise of Skywalker. That movie is supposed to take place 10 years after, so maybe. And then James Mangold in 2030, or I don't know, maybe we'll start getting 2 movies a year. We'll see what happens. All right, so are you guys excited for Starfighter? Are you guys excited to see Ryan Gosling, Mia Goth go at it? Maybe both of them are ace pilots. Give me some Top Gun ace pilots going after each other, chasing each other through the galaxy in their X-wings or TIE fighters or new ships. Give us new ships. I love it. So, all right. So that does it for Star Wars news. I should have done the Star Wars movie news for that one. I forgot. All right. So now let's go to our main topic, and it is the reading guide for the High Republic. So I'm going to start by saying this is non-spoiler. I won't anything that I say right now won't spoil anything for Trials of the Jedi. So Trials of the Jedi, the final novel in the High Republic saga, is coming out in a week and a half, June 17th. I was fortunate enough to get an advanced review copy from Penguin Random House Worlds. My non-spoiler review is already on our website, radiorebellionpodcast.wordpress.com. You can read it there. My spoiler review is coming out on the 17th when the book drops. The thing is, the High Republic has been going now for about 4 years, I believe, when it was announced. There is over a dozen books. I counted it's closer to 30 books total between adult novels, middle grade, young adult, mangas, one-shots, comic series, anthology stories. There's so much out there that it's overwhelming for someone that might want to jump into the High Republic now and don't know what's going on. I've read most of the novels. I believe I read all the adult novels, not all the middle grades, the young adults and some of the middle grades, very little of the comics. And it does help to have all that knowledge. You don't need to have read everything to understand what's happening by the end, but a lot of it does help to have some understanding of the world, the characters, and that's what we're gonna go over it now. But I understand that it's difficult if someone's just online and sees a lot of us talking about the High Republic and how excited we are and the things are happening, and hey, I want to jump in, and then you see all the books and comic book storyline. It can be daunting. So what I want to try to do with this, what I call this essential reading guide, and again, this is just my thoughts. Other people would say, you're missing this book, you're missing this comic book, why didn't you talk about this? That's all fine. These are the books that I think people should read before jumping into the Trials of the Jedi, this last book. Like I mentioned before, none of these will be spoilers for Trials of the Jedi. I'm only going to talk about basically the characters that we know are on the book. Most of them are on the cover already, so you know they're part of the book. And the storylines that go into the book in terms of the Nile, Markion Row, the Nameless, what stories you should read before you jump into the final book. Can you just grab Trials on the Jedi and enjoy it? Of course, like any Star Wars book and any Star Wars story out there. That's the beauty of Star Wars. There is some history behind it that we might not really know. And then you go back and read what the hell was the Clone Wars, right? When you watch A New Hope for the first time. What happened between Obi-Wan and Luke's father? We want to learn all that stories. We don't need it to enjoy A New Hope. There's some history behind it. It is very difficult to know everything that's going on Trials of the Jedi without that 20-book history that came before. You don't need to read 20 books, but I'll do my best to help out. This list here, again, is not a list of my favorite books, not a list of every character or my favorite characters. There's some stories that won't affect Trials of the Jedi, so I won't mention them here, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't read them, because they're just some great Star Wars stories. So afterwards, you can go back and read through all the other books out there and decide which ones you also want to jump in. All right, so let's start. And the first one is Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. Charles Soule, also the author for Trials of the Jedi. So he's the one that started it all, and he's the one that's going to bring it all home at the end of the day. I don't envy him. This was a massive task. My only thing I will say about Trials of the Jedi is that I think he landed. He landed the plane safely. Another happy landing. Uh, some things I wanted him to cover more, others less, but in the end, great book. But it all starts with Light of the Jedi. It's the book that started it all. It tells you what the state of the galaxy is. Why is the High Republic considered the golden age of the Jedi, the golden age of the Republic? Who's the Chancellor, Lina Soh, and who are the Nile? Who is Markion Rowe and this group of marauders, pirates that want to take over? Take what they want, kill who they need, and then leave. That's what they wanted. That's how they were introduced. They're not just another bunch of pirates or the Hot Cartel or Black Suns. They're not that. They're totally different breed. Like I said, introduces a new era in Star Wars, which is very difficult to do. We've known the prequel trilogy era, the sequel, the original trilogy, the Rebellion, the Galactic era. We know that. So going back 150, 250 years and try to bring that and make it feel like Star Wars was incredibly difficult. But Light of the Jedi and Charles Soule does that. It introduces us to Jedi Master Avar Kriss, who is exemplifies the potential of every Jedi. Like, what do you look for in a Jedi? Who's the, I don't want to say most powerful, because there's always Yoda, but the Jedi that everyone looks up to is Avar Kriss, and she's going to be one of the main characters throughout the whole initiative, the High Republic Luminous Initiative. Gives us a young Padawan by the name of Bel Serifar, who's extremely important for this book, his master, Loden Greystorm, and for his story and his confrontation with Markion Rowe. Again, Markion Rowe, the new mysterious villain in Star Wars, he's already in that pantheon of favorite Star Wars villains. He has a plan. He sets a plan in motion that's going to rewrite the galaxy. Shows us how the Jedi connect to the Force, which is something new. How each Jedi senses the Force a little bit different. For Avar Kriss, it's a song. For Elzar Mann, it's waves crashing in the ocean. So there's all this new lore that's introduced into it. And if you only read one book before Trials of the Jedi, make it Light of the Jedi, a lot of the characters will kind of jump back and forth. But at least you have an idea of what's going on in the galaxy, why the Nile are attacking the Republic. And basically that's it. There's not a confrontation between Markion and the main Jedi. But there's a big thing that happens, of course, with Loden Greystone and Markion Rowe that will affect Bel Serifar going for the following stories. So again, Light of the Jedi, if you only read one, make it Light of the Jedi. Plus, it's a great book. It's a great way to kick off the High Republic. After Light of the Jedi, the second one will be The Rising Storm, which is the next adult novel by Kevin Scott. This, I believe, is Otis' favorite High Republic book, at least back when Phase 1 and Phase 2 were done. So like I put on something I wrote a couple of days ago for the website, if Light of the Jedi showed us what the Jedi were capable of, Rising Storm shows us what the Now are capable of and what Markion Rowe is capable of. So we have Lina Soh, the Chancellor, trying to give the Republic some great works, trying to bring everyone together as this Republic fair on Valo. And then Now just come and wreck everything. I'm just going to leave it there. But it shows us how much of a menace they are. They show how much of a menace Markion Rowe is, even though he's working behind the scenes. We get a lot with the Tempest Breakers, or the Tempest Runners, I should say. Lorna D, come on, talking about menace. She's the one that the Jedi think is the Eye of the Storm. They think that she's leading the Nile. She's great. It finally gives us Stellan Geos, the Jedi Master, which is my favorite character. I think right there with Vanessa might be my favorite character. Sorry, with Ola Joreni and Comac Vitos. There's a lot of great Jedi in this era, so that's why. But gives us Stellan Geos, that scene with him and the Chancellor at the end is classic. It's one of the best Star Wars Jedi ever. Also gives us Elsar Man, which is then kind of the Anakin Skywalker of this era. He's tempted towards the dark side, or he has, I don't want to say he's tempted toward this dark side, but he has dark side tendencies. His emotions get the best of him, and that's something that will go on all the way to Trials of the Jedi. So, and we got the introduction of Ty Jorik, Monster Hunter, ex-Jedi turned Monster Hunter, almost kills Elsar Man. And again, that relationship moves forwards, and there's a reason then we need her towards Trials of the Jedi, because she's there. And here we get the introduction to that character. But again, it's Markion Ro and the now showing us why there's such a menace and a threat to the Republic and to the Jedi in themselves. This is why. So Rising Storm right there will be the next book that I recommend that you need to read before you jump into Trials, so you get a sense of what Markion and the Now are capable of and what they've been doing to then have the Republic and the Jedi always constantly behind them. So Trials of the Jedi, Light of the Jedi, and then the Rising Storm. And we'll finish with the Phase 1, the third adult novel, which is The Fallen Star by Claudia Gray. Claudia Gray, one of the GOAT Star Wars writers of all time. This is, if you were to do the High Republic trilogy, it would be Light of the Jedi, Rising Storm, and then Fallen Star. The Fallen Star, Claudia Gray had said she looked at this like, was it the Poseidon Adventure and Titanic? That things just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And you think you fixed something, but two other things. It's just a countdown of things going down and getting worse by the minute. So here we have Markion Ro basically finally unleashing his Nameless, the animals, the Jedi Eaters or the Force Eaters that will take the Force away from the Jedi. Here we see how it actually affects them, all the fear, all the everything that the the Jedi are feeling, and when the Nameless gets close, here we get that in detail. It also gives us the best version of Stellan Geos, showing us that he's not only one of the best Jedi out there, he's even a greater person. And also Elsar Man having those dark side tendencies that unfortunately lead to some bad decisions. We have the return of Ola Joreni, kind of putting both of those Jedis in their place. But by the end, it's Markion Ro announcing himself to the Republic that he is the Eye of the Now. He's the one that's been causing chaos, and that the Republic is his. So this is the book that we think the Jedi are going to be able to save the day, but by the end, it's Markion Ro kind of announcing himself. And then basically the galaxy is at his fingertips. So by the end, when we get to Trials of the Jedi, this is why the Jedi and the Republic have been reeling for so long. And for the last 2 or 3 years, story-wise, why they haven't been able to get to him, it all starts here. So those 3 adult novels from Phase 1 are some of the most important to get the feel of the characters that you will be dealing with when you get to Trials of the Jedi. Give me 1 second. So jumping a little to comic books now, we don't want to forget about those. So it's Star Wars The High Republic, Eye of the Storm, this comic series written by Charles Soules and art by Guillermo Sana. So it's just a two issues. So it's pretty quick read. It's great. Here you get the backstory of Markion Ro, his family, his people, the Evereni, where the Evereni came from, why they've been shunned by the Republic or by the galaxy in general, who was Asgard Ro, who's Markion's dad, how did they get their hands on so many Nameless. We'll get to go to Planet X, and we start to understand a little bit more about why he hates the Jedi, why Markion hates the Republic. We get some with Marda Ro and the path, how they work, why that relationship between her and Markion, but also the Nameless. what are these creatures? Where do these creatures come from? Why do they affect the Jedi? Even that it's not 100% explained in this novel. In the comic series, we start getting an idea for those characters, which again, very important for the finale. So Star Wars, The High Republic, Eye of the Storm, two comic books written by Charles Soule and Guillermo Sana, a great read. And then we have The Eye of Darkness by George Mann. This was, I believe, the first book that came out for Phase 3 of the High Republic. You will see right now I don't have any books from Phase 2, and I don't think you need to read any Phase 2 book to understand and to enjoy Trials of the Jedi. There are some things that do kind of come into play. I don't think you need to go and read everything in Phase 2 to know what's going on with Trials of the Jedi. So jumping on to Phase 3 and The Eye of Darkness by Josh Mann. This is basically Mark and Ro just, hey, I'm here. What are you going to do? It's been a year since the fall of Starlight. Mark and Ro rules the galaxy. Not the galaxy, the occlusion zone. So he put basically a barrier around half the galaxy. Like the Republic's on that end. We have the storm wall, this impenetrable, invisible fence, basically. And behind is the occlusion zone, which is all the planets that he controls now on his side on now space. And he can expand it however he wants. There's no way for the Jedi to go through it. You can, they now have a way to go back and forth. The Republic can, the Jedi can. There's Jedi trapped behind the storm wall. Planets are facing famine. There's no food. There's no supplies. It's just Mark and Ro being the main that he is. So this is just what are we going to do now? But again, where there's darkness, there's hope. And behind the storm wall, who's there? Ava Chris, the best of us, the Song of the Jedi, the light of the Jedi. Also, she's there helping people as best she can, is doing what Jedi know to do best, is helping people in need. We get introduced, or not reintroduced, because he was introduced in Phase 2, is Porter Engle. Actually, he was introduced in Phase 1 as the Blade of Bardotta, but I love his story also from Phase 2. He's there on Phase 3, behind the storm wall. He's confronting this Nile general that her name is General Vies or Vies, an old nemesis from Phase 2. Now in Phase 3, they've been going at it for 150 years. And that's still, again, all those characters come back by the end. But Elzar Mann and Lina Soh have survival's guilt from what happened in The Fallen Star. They're trying to find a way to get into the occlusion zone and behind the stone wall. Elzar Mann, again, not the best at making decisions. Things happen. He goes more into his shell. Lina Soh has lost Tenan Geos, who was her contact inside the Jedi. So now those two had to figure out how to work together. Ava Chris is doubting her leadership skill because she wasn't present during the events of The Fallen Star. So it's basically our heroes are down. But again, there's always hope. Where there's darkness and where there's Jedi, there's always hope. And it starts giving us a little bit of the dynamic between the Republic and now space. We have Gira Staros, who used to be a senator in the Republic. Now we work with Markion Roche. She wants to try to make the now more of an actual political party, if you want to call it that. Something that rivals the Republic, see that their way might be better. So you cannot, again, it's a new state of the galaxy, very different to what we saw in Light of the Jedi. Now here in Eye of the Darkness, we see that the balance has shifted. Like now have the not the open hand. Think about the path of the open hand. Anyway, they had the overhand, and what can our heroes do? And very important. This book is very important also as we get closer to the end. All right, two more that I think are necessary reads before you get to Trials of the Jedi. Temptation of the Force by Tessa Gratton. Come on, one of the best from Phase 3. Temptations of the Force. The cover says it all. The title says it all. Ava, Chris, and Elzar Mann have been reunited. They finally give in to their feelings, their attraction. Can Jedi have relationships without falling into compulsion and I forgot. Possessiveness and selfishness, can they have a relationship without having those attachments? Are attachments bad? What type of attachments work? Has Yoda given relationship advice? So just in that sense, to see how two Jedi can form a relationship together while being 2 out of 3, because they're still missing Stellan Geos, and how Stellan's life still affects their own lives. It's a great examination of Jedi's, I don't say Jedi's life, but how Jedi compose themselves when it's just two of them around, with all the weight of what happened before still hanging on. It's a great exploration of how those two characters work. For Marky and Rowe, now we have the Blight, which is this new thing that came up. Sorry, I forgot where. I think the Blight was introduced in the Eye of Darkness. No, actually, no. The Blight was introduced in. I'm gonna talk about it in a minute. Defy the Storm. So we have the Blight, this thing that's destroying everything. Everything it touches, this disease has taken over planets. So Michael Rowe is studying the effects of the Blight, his connection to the Nameless, visits Coruscant, tell them, hey, if you want someone to fix this, I'm your guy. I'm the savior now. So before he was, this republic is mine, or this galaxy is mine. And now he's basically saying, yeah, I know I've killed a bunch of Jedi, killed a bunch of the Republic people, but I'm your only hope. So come on, give me a chance. He's the only op. And then Lina Soh is trying to figure out what the hell to do, because she's running out of options of how to spread this disease that's affecting all those planets. I think when we get to Trials of the Jedi, they do say how many planets have been affected. I won't go into it. But yeah, it's funny also, Temptation of the Force. The Jedi have been able to find a way to go back and forth behind the storm wall and into the occlusion zone. They've been helping people and planets on that side, trying to bring refugees back into the Republic space. Or they finally confront a Nameless and are able to find a way to fight those creatures without dying, basically. A lot of it goes into it. Buriaga, the Jedi Wookiee, has a lot to do with that. How to control that, again, is very important in this book and going forward. So yeah, this book, again, phase 3 is mostly about Elzar and Avar Kriss and a lot of Buriaga. Reith Silas, which I haven't talked about here, he does have a big part to play in Trials of the Jedi. He has a bigger part to play in some of the other books in phase 3. But those right now, Avar Kriss, Elzar Mann, and Buriaga, are very important to the stories in Temptation of the Force, and then going into Trials of the Jedi. So yeah, Temptation of the Force. Even if you don't read Trials of the Jedi, check this book out. It's a great addition. Tessa Gratton did a great job. And then finally, in terms of essential reads for Trials of the Jedi, if you only read one book before, make it Light of the Jedi. If you read 2, make your second one Tears of the Nameless. I think this is the second most important book for people out there to read before they jump into Trials of the Jedi. And just gave you 7 books that I think are a great read to know everything and all the characters and where the galaxy is at the moment before you go to Trials of the Jedi. But if you can only read 2, you don't have time to read all those books, which I understand, not just the time commitment, but the monetary commitment is a lot. Light of the Jedi and Tears of the Nameless. Here we have Jedi Knight, at this point, Reith Silas, the return of his master, Comac Virus. They had a falling apart. Not a falling apart. Comac Virus left the Jedi Order at the end of Midnight Horizon by Daniel Jose Older. A almost perfect Star Wars book. You should read that also. With the return of Comac Virus, working with Jedi, with Reith Silas, we have a Padawan called Amadeo Sasso that was introduced by Lydia Kang on one of her anthology stories. Great character, great Padawan. But those 3, it's basically an Indiana Jones kind of adventure. They're looking at artifacts, looking at all civilizations, trying to figure out puzzles, lost civilizations with not gods, but the 3 deities. Kind of doesn't feel a lot like Star Wars, but it does. We had this Indiana Jones kind of adventure element into it, missing civilizations. All in all, to find a scientific approach and solution to the Nameless / Blight problem. And those three characters, especially Reed Silas, which was an academic, basically, he didn't want to leave Coruscant, and the Jedi Archive, now leading missions and being involved in trying to figure out how to solve the Nameless and the Blight problem. We have fallen Jedi Aslin Rail, which is one of the additions from Phase 2, comes back on this book, how he's basically gone to the dark side. He survived a Nameless attack, and he's trying to be this mentor to Reed, even though everyone's telling him not to trust anything that Aslin said. But Aslin's knowledge on the Nameless is very important to the study that Reed is conducting. It's a great dynamic that all those characters have. I have another villain that comes in into this book. A lot of Nameless. We have Vernestra Rowe matching up against Markion Rowe. Again, Vernestra, we know she's alive because of the Acolyte, but still you have that, oh my God, what's going to happen to my girl? Don't do anything to Vernestra. So it's a great book and very, very, very important to the events of Trials of the Jedi. So again, we just talked about Light of the Jedi, the Rising Storm, the Fallen Star, the Eye of the Sun comic series, Eye of Darkness, Temptation of the Force, and Tears of the Nameless. Those 7 books, I think, are the most important out of the almost 30 stories out there that people should read to understand everything that's happening in terms of the Jedi, all the character motivation, why the Republic is at the state that it is, why Markion Rowe and the Now might not be in the same wavelength, why Gira Saros has a different vision for the future, and why the Jedi sent those 9 Jedi to fix the Nameless problem and the Blight problem. These 7 books cannot touch on all those points. So those are my main additions, or my main, I guess, suggestions for you guys out there. But again, if you only have time to read 2 before Trials of the Jedi, make it Light of the Jedi and Tears of the Nameless. All right, so just to finish up, some supplemental reading. And again, I need a little water break. All right, so some supplemental reading. So these following titles, they'll enhance the story. They'll give you a little bit more character beats and character information. They're not necessary to understand and to enjoy Trials of the Jedi, but they do give you a little bit more behind the scenes knowledge of all the characters and how certain people got to the places that they're at. First one, Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. This is kind of a selfish kind of pick because it's my favorite Star Wars book of all time. It showed me what the Force and the Jedi actually, how things work, and the other ways you can look into the Force and into the Jedi Order and the Cosmic Force and where those things fall, where should the Jedi fall. But also introduces Reed Silas and Comac Virus that I just talked about. This book is very important to their journey. It also has Orla Jareni, who has, like I mentioned, a big part to play in The Fallen Star. She's here, and her interactions with Comac Virus are extremely important. And one of my favorite things about Star Wars is in this book. And it turns out that Drengia, which are plants that just care about meat and eating. But basically, mostly so you get your introduction to Reed, Comac, Orla Jareni, and some of the other now players are around. That's why that's my favorite book. So yeah, go read Into the Dark. Star Wars: The High Republic, The Monster of Temple Peak comic series, written by Kevin Scott with art by Rachel Stott. This is the introduction, not introduction because she was introducing the Rising Storm, but we get the behind, I always call it behind the scenes, but the history of Ty Yorick, why she left the Jedi Order, why she's a monster hunter. And being a monster hunter might be important when you get to Trials of the Jedi and you need to hunt some monsters in the Nameless. Now you have an idea of this character. Again, the story itself doesn't add anything to Trials of the Jedi, just that you know the history of Ty Yorick. So yeah, plus it's a great comic book, great art. Rachel Stott does a great job in those 3 comics. I think it's a 4-part issue. And this is the first or the only that I'll talk about Phase 2 novel, and it's Path of Deceit by Tessa Gratton and Justina Arland. It's the first novel in Phase 2. Just want to show it right here. Path of Deceit. Great cover. Great cover. Um, it gives us Aslin Rel shows up here for the first time. So introduction, Aslin Rel as a Jedi before he falls to the dark side. That happens in one of the comics. So the Path of the Open Hand, who are the villain at this point, the mother, Marda Rowe, which is like Marcus Rowe, great something something. They surface as an enemy to the Jedi and to the Order. We have the first time that the path or someone related to Mark and Rowe goes out and finds the Nameless and brings back some eggs, and they hatch, and then we get baby Nameless and their effect on Kefmo Sink. Sorry, Kefmo, we love you. We have Path of Deceit, the introduction to a lot of those concepts from Phase 2. Tales of Light and Life anthology, the story called All Jedi Walk Their Own Path by Charles Soule. This is after the events of the Fallen Star, Bell Setifar not giving up on Buriaga and doing everything in his power to find Buriaga. It's very important to see the development of Bell and how his friendship with Buriaga then plays all the way till the end in Trials of the Jedi. Very cool story. And most of the Tales of Light and Life, all those anthology stories are great. So if you can just get it. But if you only read one before Trials, All Jedi Walk Their Own Path. And then finally, Defy the Storm, also by Tessa Gratton and Justina Arland, is the introduction of the Blight as a new problem to the galaxy. So if you want to know what the Blight is or how it got introduced, or the first time they got introduced and why people are really and not really knowing what's going on, then Defy the Storm by Tessa Gratton and Justina Arland. So those last kind of 5 or 6 that I mentioned are just some supplemental reading, but not necessarily essential for knowing everything that's going on in Trials of the Jedi. Whew. All right, so that does it. Again, if you're a fan of Star Wars novels, Star Wars storytelling, and you haven't gotten into the High Republic, it does feel like a lot, and it is a lot. I think those 7 books I mentioned when we started talking are the most important to then get to Trials of the Jedi. So if you want to dedicate some time, invest some, again, unfortunately, some credits into it, you don't need to read all 20 something books, all the hundreds of comic books that are out there. I think just focus on those 7, especially the first one and last one that I mentioned, Light of the Jedi and Tears of the Nameless. But if you can do the others in the middle and then jump into Trials of the Jedi, I think you'll enjoy it tremendously. You won't feel that you're missing out on any of the story beats. I'll say Charles Soule does a great job in connecting dots. If you haven't read everything, it doesn't feel like just blatant exposition. It does make sense if you don't have time to kind of go through everything. But it does help to have a general understanding or a bigger understanding of what's going on out there, why some characters make some of the decisions that they make, or why they're so set or involved in solving those problems. So, all right, guys, so that does it. Let me know what you guys think. If you've read everything in the High Republic, if you think what I mentioned kind of works for other people out there, if you think it's more important for just let me know. Or if there's some books that you've read before, you're not sure, or if you've heard about some of the books and you're not sure if you need to read them, just let me know and we'll talk about them. So thanks to everyone that made it in today. To our friend Brennan, of course, thanks for being here. Thanks to our new friend in the chat, Explore the Force, thanks to you also for being here. And anyone else that was watching the show but didn't get to be on the chat, thank you for being here. If you're listening to this or watching this later on the replay, also thank you. And again, if you're listening to us on the other podcast, thank you, and make sure to give us a 5-star rating and review. So like I mentioned at the beginning, we most likely won't have an episode next week. We'll be back at some point later in the summer. Whenever there's new Star Wars news, we'll come on and talk about it. For right now, thank you everyone for joining us. happy early Father's Day to everyone out there. Stay safe, be safe, and may the Force be with you. See you next time.